Welcome to A Heart for Home Education. My name is America, home educator to my 3 children, ages 9, 7, and 5. Today, I will be sharing with you all of the studies that we will be doing together as a family. So as some of you may know, we are using the children's tradition for our main curriculum. This is a beautiful and rich curriculum that melds together Charlotte Mason's approach to classical education leading to the great books eventually through John Senior's 1000 Good Book List, as well as the poetic mode of learning. This curriculum is rooted in the knowledge of God and the love of His creation and the love of learning about His creation. It's rooted in reality and truth and presenting ideas to our children in the poetic way of learning. So today I am going to be sharing some of the resources that we will be approaching as a family from the children's tradition. Some of these things might end up in our morning basket or our benediction table, and some of these will have dedicated time during our morning lessons. And so with all of that said, let's jump into the resources that we will be using as a family together next year. So first up, I am going to be sharing some of the things that we will be using in our morning basket, but I intend to make a video later sharing kind of a detailed look into our morning basket or our benediction table as the children's tradition refers to it. So to help our children rightly order their loves, we start our mornings with prayer and with Bible reading. So a couple of our resources for prayer are Fount of Heaven. This is Prayers of the Early Church, and I actually purchased this early in the spring, not knowing that that would be part of our curriculum. But these are just prayers that were written down from early church fathers and from other church writings from the early church, like the Apostolic Constitutions and the Didache. So this is a beautiful collection of prayers, and we already pray through a couple of these each day, along with prayers for our loved ones. And then we also use Be Thou My Vision and have used this one for a while. And this is by Jonathan Gibson. And this is a daily liturgy for worship. It has a call to worship. It has songs. It has scripture. It has confession, repentance, and pardon of sin, as well as other prayers. So this is a really beautiful book, and I really enjoy using this one during my personal worship time, but also with the children. So we will still be using these two things next year, along with reading through the Bible. And then of course, after prayer is our Bible reading. And so we read the Bible each morning, just straight from the regular Bible. I sometimes use the ESV version, but most of the time I use the King James version just because the language is so much richer and so much more beautiful. But at times it is a little bit more difficult to understand. So I will switch back to the ESV as needed. And then we are continuing to use Long Story Short by Marty Machowski. And this really, I don't do everything in this because sometimes it gets a little analytical. My children narrate back to me, which narration is a pillar of a Charlotte Mason education. That is where a student tells back what he has read or heard, and narration really takes the place of like any comprehension question. So I typically don't do the comprehension questions in here, but sometimes he gives helpful examples or just helpful guidance on what a particular passage means. And I foresee needing a little bit of help. We will be using the Year 4 Ambleside online schedule for scripture, and that includes Kings and Judges, and so I need just a little bit of help and support when reading those areas to my kids. So that is what we will be using for Bible. After Bible is Lives of the Saints and biographies. So we typically read one of these each term. This year I'm going to slow it down just a little bit and probably only do 2 stretched out over the entire year. So we are going to do Amy Carmichael, and these are the Christian Heroes Then and Now books. We really enjoyed these. So we will be reading about Amy Carmichael. And then we also have Fox's Book of Martyrs by John Fox. And this one we will probably read once or twice per week. And this just goes through various martyrs, various church history stories. And then we always have our fables. We haven't stopped reading these through the summer, and we will just continue to read these. I usually read a page or 2 per day, and my children love these, so we're definitely not ready to move on from these. We still really enjoy these. And then for poetry, we are using the Ambleside Online Poetry Anthology Volume 2. So this has Walter de la Mare, Eugene Field, James Whitcomb Riley, and Christina Rossetti. This is a printing by Ambleside Online so that it can all be within one book. And so we will be reading these for our poetry in the mornings. For spiritual formation and kind of like moral tales, we are using Proverbs stories. This is by Louisa May Alcott. I've never heard of these. These look like great little stories that each, I think, are just standalone little stories. It's not like a cohesive, overarching storyline. This we are going to be doing once per week, and I expect that this adds a lot of richness to our morning time. And then after that, something new for us is speaking Spanish with Miss Mason and Francois. We really have not been great about foreign language. My priorities have just been elsewhere, but I think this is a good time to try to give Spanish a try. And the format of this book is such that we only need to do it for like 5 minutes a day. And we can do that. So I'm hoping that we can stick with this and do this 3 to 5 mornings per week for just a couple of minutes. This is published by Simply Charlotte Mason, but it is by Miss Mason herself. And so it follows this pattern of learning language that is very physical, that is very repetitive, and very rooted in things that the child is experiencing day to day. So the first phrase that you would learn is, I open the book. You'd also learn, I take the book, I close the book. And then you learn some variations, and then you learn it in English and you kind of memorize it, and then you learn it in Spanish and memorize it. And children will kind of naturally and poetically pick up upon the language that they are approaching in this way. So that is the hope. This curriculum should last us a couple of years, and I hope that we can stay diligent with this. And then this is something that we read together at night. My husband actually reads this one to the kids. We are almost done with it, but it was part of our curriculum. We just kind of got an early start on it. And this is called Prudence and the Millers by Mildred Martin. And these are stories about health, safety, courtesy, manners, just things that us homeschool parents might not remember to teach our children specifically and explicitly. So there's really good stories in here. There are some that are sort of weird. So I would pre-read this one because there's been like 2 where I was like, that's not how I would word that. Or that's not what I would say about that particular thing. But overall, the stories have been really good. So you might want to glance at this before just sitting down to read it, because there's been a couple of times where like, kind of have to go back and correct what they said, because I believe they are Mennonite or something. So that there's not huge differences there, but there are some subtle differences. I remember 2 specific chapters where I was like, that's not how I would have taught that or said that. But that's okay. We can go back and kind of edit that with our kids again. Up next, as a family, is this drawing textbook for our drawing lessons. So I heard of this curriculum from the Classical Casa. She is here on YouTube, and she's talked about this curriculum quite a bit. It's so inexpensive, and it looked so easy to use that I thought, maybe we will give this a shot. After actually looking at it, I really think it could be a good option for us. I have some reluctant drawers, and so I really like to get that child out of that habit of being reluctant to draw. And so this looks so simple and easy that I really hope all of my children take to this. Each page is a lesson, and you kind of like draw the thing, and then on the next lesson it's kind of those same things, but just like with a little bit more detail. And within here he's teaching explicitly how to draw and drawing principles. So this will be our drawing curriculum for this year. And then for Latin, we intended to try to learn Latin last year, but my focus just had to shift away to some other areas that my students were struggling in, and we had to set aside Latin for last year. So this year we are going to try Latin. I think that it is a good time for us to try it. And we are going to be using Latin through Stories, which is a K-5 curriculum from the University of Dallas. That one is a year-long membership, so I have not purchased that one yet. I want to purchase it closer to when we begin school. So I really don't have much to say about it yet because I haven't really been able to look at it, but it has been recommended by the children's tradition. So I have heard some people talking about it, and it looks like a really beautiful curriculum. So if you are looking for a family option, a family approach to Latin, I would check out Latin through Stories from the University of Dallas. And hopefully I can share more about that once I have my hands on it. For fairy tales, we are going to be reading The Red Fairy Book by Andrew Lang. We've been in the Blue Fairy Book for a couple of years now, so I'm excited to see what the Red Fairy Book has for us. And this is a beautiful printing from Living Book Press. If you go to the description box down below, I have my affiliate link to the Living Book Press site. And so we will be reading just this Red Fairy Book for all of us as a family instead of doing the individual year's fairy tale recommendations. We will just stick with the Red Fairy Book. And then up next is Tales from Shakespeare. This is the Charles and Mary Lamb version. This is another beautiful edition from Living Books Press. I intend to pair these stories with some paper dolls on Etsy. There are lots of paper doll options for Shakespeare stories to help your children keep the characters straight. So I intend to use those again. We will be following the TCT or AO schedule for reading these. Up next is Picture Study, Artist Study. So I purchased 2 picture study portfolios from Simply Charlotte Mason. So the first one that I picked up is Botticelli. I don't know if we'll be doing this one for the first half of the year, the second half of the year, but I did pick up this one along with Constable. So those are the painters that we will be studying. I like that the biography is included right in here. It was really difficult to get my hands on the artist study that the Children's Tradition recommended, so I just went ahead and did these artist study kits, these portfolios from Simply Charlotte Mason. Then I also did the music study from Simply Charlotte Mason, and I got Chopin. I'm not sure why I only picked one composer. I did not, for some reason, purchase another one. Maybe I accidentally deleted it from my cart. But so this is the composer we'll be studying for the first half of the year. And then if we need another composer for the second half, I will pick another one up. And then for nature study as a family, we will be doing 1 nature study walk per week, Lord willing. And then I have it paired with Sabbath Mood Homeschool Level 1 Nature Explorers Rotation A. That's a mouthful, but it is a beautiful curriculum that really holds your hand through nature study. She is very true to Charlotte Mason's methods. She provides a lot of extra resources that you can use, things that you're looking for out when you are doing your nature study. Because for me, we don't really have trouble getting outside, but I have trouble knowing what to focus on and how to support my children in learning about those things. So I think this is going to do a good job of holding our hands through that, and I'm looking forward to using this. And for Swedish Drill, we are going to be using Swedish Drill 1, which has been adapted by the Schoolyard. So I have been looking for something like this for years. The CMEC, when I joined that 2 or 3 years ago, that was something I really liked, was that they had resources for Swedish Drill. But even those resources, I wished kind of went to the next level. So they would kind of show you what the moves were for Swedish Drill, but I wanted something that had actual lesson plans for Swedish Drill, because I really just like to open and go and not have to think about things during the school day because I'm moving in so many different directions. So I think this is going to do just that. It's going to give us specific daily lesson plans. It also has QR codes that you can go and look at the moves. And Swedish Drill, according to this curriculum, is a form of exercise that aims to work the brain as much as the body. It simultaneously builds good listening habits and educates the whole child by building self-control, visualization, and attentiveness skills. Swedish Drill combines calisthenic drill moves with the grace and beauty of ballet. Think of it as a giant game of Simon Says. And we have done this in the past, and we really like doing it. It's a very nice brain break for all of the kids, and it's fun. But I've just had a hard time getting the structure of it. So this, I think, is going to be really helpful, and I think we will really enjoy adding this into our days just for 5 minutes. It's one of those things that only takes just 5 minutes, and it adds a lot of richness to the day. And so I will have an affiliate link down below for the Schoolyard if you would like to check out their content. They have a lot of levels for Swedish Drill and a lot of other things like musical games and singing games and physical activity things that you could include in your homeschool. So I will link that down below if you'd like to check it out. And then I think this is the last family thing that we are doing together, but this is Star Stories. These are constellation tales from around the world. This is by Andy Wilkes and Anita Ganeri. So these are really just fables and folk tales about the constellations, so that when we stargaze, we have these stories to think about of how the ancient world interpreted these stars. And it's really just instilling wonder and imagination in our children. So those are all of our family subjects for the 2025-2026 coming school year. Those are all the things that we are going to be doing together as a family. It may seem like a lot, and it is a lot, but just as a reminder, it is spread throughout the entire school year. Not all of these things we are doing every single week. Some of them are every other week, and then some of them are just for like 3 to 5 minutes per day. So once it's broken down like that, it is broken down into very manageable, small, bite-sized pieces with short lessons, but it's providing a varied and wide feast. I'm so looking forward to using these resources in our homeschool. Please share with me some of the things that you guys are using as a family, or if you are using any of the resources we are, please let me know. And if you haven't seen what my kids are doing individually for their individual subjects, or if you're wondering about geography or history or literature, then head back to my individual skill subject videos. That's where I share what we are doing, our plans for those areas of study. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.